So here we are. We are in our fourth week. I'm going to grab that. Thank you. Of our series based on the book, The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And I've also started rereading Eckhart Tolle's Power of Now. How many of us have read that book? Powerful, isn't it? And it's so similar to what Michael Singer is talking about. So we talked about our inner roommate, and we talked about clearing the heart energy, and we talked about embracing change. But I want to read with you from Eckhart's book, because I think that he explains so well this whole idea of the inner voice, and I think that most of us will relate to this. He said, when someone goes to the doctor and says, I hear a voice in my head, he or she will most likely be sent to the psychiatrist. The fact is that in a very similar way, virtually everyone hears a voice or several voices in their head all the time. The involuntary thought process is that you don't realize you have the power to stop. Continuous monologues or dialogues. You have probably come across quote-unquote mad people on the street incessantly talking or muttering to themselves. Well, that's not much different from what you and all other quote-unquote normal people do, except that you don't do it out loud. The voice comments, speculates, judges, compares, complains, likes, dislikes, and so on. Here, it often imagines things going wrong and negative outcomes. This is called worry. Anybody ever worry? Sometimes this soundtrack is accompanied by visual images or mental movies. How many of us do the mental movies in our mind? We've got the whole thing already, yeah. Even if the voice is relevant to the situation at hand, it will interpret in terms of the past. This is because the voice belongs to your conditioned mind, which is the result of all your past history as well as all of the collective cultural mindset that you have taken on to be true. And that is absolute truth. I thought that really explained what we're talking about with these voices that are going on in our head. Well, this week we are talking about freedom, and we all know that you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free. Yes? How many of us want to experience freedom? On many levels, right? On many levels. But getting this freedom in our mind and in our heart, this is the most important freedom, because everything else will spring out of that. The intention, Michael Singer says, actually, this is Diane Vanzera, that true freedom begins when we free ourselves from what is holding us from our good, which is pain, fear, and fear of pain. Our principle, goodness sakes, that didn't want to come. We have our 5 guiding principles. The principle that we're focused on this week is as number 3. I create my experiences by what I choose to think and feel and believe. The main word there is what I choose to think and feel and believe. And the power that we're focused on is the power of life. And I'm going to read this to you. The Christ presence within us contains the vibrating energy of life, and it inspires us to action. Life energy is the power that enables us to grow, heal, empower, and restore ourselves. It is the divine idea that makes wholeness possible for us. We really need to get in there and activate this power of life. And the thing is that when and because we are doing this unconsciously, walking around with all this worry and these voices in our head that are not positive, we are blocking the flow of that life energy. We're blocking the flow of that restorative energy, that healing energy. And so what we're doing here is of utmost importance in this series. It is of utmost importance for all of us. So I'm going to share with you one more thing from Eckhart. Well, not one more thing, but okay. He says, a beggar had been sitting by the side of the road for over 30 years. One day a stranger walked by. Spare some change, mumbled the beggar, holding out his old baseball cap. I have nothing to give you, said the stranger. Then he asked, what's that you're sitting on? Nothing, replied the beggar, just an old box. I've been sitting on it for as long as I can remember. Ever looked inside? Asked the stranger. And that beggar said, no. What's the point? There's nothing in there. Have a look inside, insisted the stranger. The beggar managed to pry open the lid. With astonishment, disbelief, and elation, he saw that the box was filled with gold. I am that stranger who who has nothing to give you and who is telling you to look inside. Not inside any box, as in the parable, but somewhere even closer, inside yourself. But I'm not a beggar, you might say. Those who have not found their true wealth, which is the radiant joy of being with a capital B, and the deep, unshakable peace that comes with it, are beggars, even if they have great material wealth. They are looking outside for scraps of pleasure or fulfillment, for validation, security, and love, while they have a treasure within that not only includes all those things, but is infinitely greater than anything that the world can offer. And that's what this is about. It's about recognizing that we have this thing going on all the time, and it's telling us that the solution to everything is in the world outside of us. And yet we wouldn't be here, I don't believe, sitting in church on a Sunday morning if we didn't have the desire to more deeply connect with Spirit, more deeply connect with God, whatever you want to call that, more deeply move into that Christed being that we are, and allow that to be, what we're strongly rooted into, and what nurtures and nourishes us, and then what comes out through us. I'd say that's probably why at least most of us are here, because we really desire that. And again, that's why for me this series is so incredibly important. So what is the greatest obstacle to this reality? Well, he says it's identification with your mind, which causes our thoughts to become compulsive. And I think we can probably all agree with this. The really cool thing about this to me is that we have been going on along in our lives for a long time, so not even consciously aware that this has been going on. And this opportunity that we have to wake up to it, it will change your life. It will change the experiences of your life. It will free so much, and that's why this week is all about freedom. It will free so much of that energy that is not serving that purpose. It will free so much of that energy for you. So Michael Singer says that the prerequisite to freedom is to decide that you don't want to suffer anymore. Isn't that easy? I just don't want to suffer anymore. The thing is, most people don't even know they're suffering because they have no idea of what's going on there, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And he says, ultimately, you need to decide that there is no need for this inner fear and pain and stress. He said, and so this is where it starts to make sense. Every day we bear a burden that we should not be bearing. We fear that we are not good enough, that we will fail, that we experience insecurity, anxiety, and self-consciousness. We fear that people will turn on us, take advantage of us, or stop loving us. And all of these are tremendous burdens. People are constantly thinking things like this. What if I get put on the spot? What if I don't know what to say? What if I don't say the right thing? I get so nervous when I'm not prepared. That is suffering. That is suffering when we're constantly walking around with these thoughts going on in our heads. And he says that constant inner anxious thinking is a form of suffering. Can I really trust him? What if I expose myself and I get taken advantage of again? I don't want to ever feel like that again. Can we relate to any of this? Yeah, of course we can relate to this. And, that's what the Buddha talked about when he was talking about life is suffering. And what the Buddha said is not that life causes us to suffer. Rather, when we insist that the world be what it is not, or we insist that people be who they are not, we cause our own suffering. Because by golly, these people and these situations outside of me should be lining up to what's going to make me happy, right? They should be lining up in ways that I'm not going to feel that pain or that fear anymore. Isn't that true? No. No, that's not true. That's why we're talking about this, because that's absolutely not true. Cessation of suffering is possible, and the Buddha says there's a way out. Since suffering is not our eternal fate, if we are willing to look deeply at the nature of life, we can rise up out of it and experience happiness. And that's the beautiful thing. I would have to say that for the majority of us in here, we've been doing this long enough that the light isn't clear at the end of the tunnel. The light's a lot closer, because we've been doing this work. but we have more work to do. And I can tell you that from my own personal experience because I've been doing this for over 3 decades. But I love it because it gets clearer and clearer and clearer to me. So Eckhart Tolle says the mind is a superb instrument if you use it rightly. The challenge is that, and it's not so much that we're not using the mind rightly, but that we don't use it at all, that it uses us. That was a huge thing when I read that our mind is actually using us because we have programmed it to use us. And it's time, just as Scripture tells us, for us to take dominion over our thoughts, take dominion over our thinking. I love when we sing, our thoughts are prayers, and we are always praying. Our thoughts are prayers. Listen to what you're saying. Seek a higher consciousness, a state of peacefulness, and know that God is always there. And every thought becomes a prayer. Have you ever really thought about that as we sing it? It's so incredibly powerful in that. So he says that the single most vital step on our journey is to learn to disidentify from our mind. Isn't that so simple? Just disidentify from our mind. Only it won't be as hard as you think it's going to be. So he says, okay, I love this. Just stop for a moment and see what you have given your mind to do. You said to your mind, I want everyone to like me. I don't want anyone to speak badly of me. I want everything I say and do to be acceptable and pleasing to everyone. I don't want anyone to hurt me. I don't want anything to happen that I don't like. I want everyone to agree with me. And I want everything to happen that I do like. Then you said to your mind, now mind, go figure out how to make that happen. And so your mind got right on it. Here's the thing, though, you guys, is that this started so far back for us. This started when we were children. It started when we were just experiencing life and nobody told us how to process it. And so, something hurt us, we felt rejected, abandoned, or whatever, and we have this wound and we don't know what to do with it, and so we hold it. And then we go along life, and then something else comes up, kind of pings that wound, and maybe we're going to act out this time. But I don't know anything about processing it, so I'm going to hold it. And then, more life goes along, and, we start getting pinged a little bit more. And we're acting out, or we're pulling back, or, and we create a cloak. We literally create a cloak of energy around us that we think is protecting us from the pain. I want to ask you something. Does that protect you from the pain? You still feel it, right? We absolutely do feel it. But somehow we've given that task to our mind to say, make everything okay. And you know what our mind says? We're going to change things out here. And that's going to make everything okay. We're going to change the person you're with. Let's change that job. Let's change the car. Let's change friends. Let's change our work. Whatever it is, your mind is going to tell you it's about something out here. And the reality, guys, it seriously never is. Because it's all about what's in here. Anything that we're experiencing is the thought that we have about it that creates emotion that and then we experience it however. And we've seen that in our own lives where you can have two people that grew up in the same family and they have two totally different ideas about what that experience was. And it's, one is like, oh, it's the best thing ever. And the other's like, are you kidding me? And so it's the thought that we have about it that really makes, quote unquote, our experience of the thing that happened. So, one of the examples that he gives, if you feel loneliness, your mind will say, well, get out and meet somebody. That's what I need to do. I need to just get somebody in my life because I feel lonely. And what he's saying here is the relationship is your attempt to solve the problem, but the problem is actually inside. And I'm going to give you an example of that. I remember when I went through a breakup many, many years ago, and And I just remember sitting in my little tiny house. It was the first time I lived without not even an animal there. And I had been really, doing my work. But I will never forget, it's such an emblazoned memory. When I was sitting there, I had a glass of wine in my living room. And all of a sudden, I knew, I'm okay. I'm okay. I didn't need anything. I didn't need anybody. I was just okay. And it was a few months later that my second husband, Sean, just magically showed up in my life. The thing is he said, the truth is that everything will be okay as soon as you are okay with everything. And that's the only time that everything will be okay. And all you have to do is stop expecting the mind to fix what is going on, what is wrong with you. And I want to acknowledge that's not easy. What is it? What is it? And I've looked at this throughout my life. What is it? What is that moment that shift comes about when you can truly, you're letting go. You've let it go. You've let it go. You've let it go. And you're good. You're okay. Have we all experienced that at points in our life where where it's just like, I'm okay. I'm good. You release it. And then the most amazing things appear in our lives. But when we're pushing for it, it doesn't happen, does it? And I believe it has a lot to do with what he's saying here, because that our mind is saying, hey, don't look inside. Don't look in there and try and figure out what's going on, because this is going to fix it. This is going to fix it out here. So one of the things that they talk about is that pain is essential for our true spiritual growth. And so hear me through on this. This is really about being okay with our being okay with being uncomfortable in our uncomfortableness, okay? Because a lot of these things, we're going to feel vulnerable. We're going to step out. We're going to, so this is where the pain part comes in. And even though you may not like the feelings of the disturbance, it is so important for us to be able to look at that disturbance. So I'm going to give you an example with the talent show. So I turned 60 this year, and in my own being, when I turned 60, I made the decision that I am done playing small. Because the thing that has been going off in my mind over and over again for my whole life was, you're not enough, you're not good enough, you're not whatever enough, blah, 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 blah. And it was like, I'm 60. It's, put on your big girl pants and get over it. And so it just made this like, okay, so I'm going to do this. So the talent show comes up, and I'm thinking about what I'm going to sing, and I decide to do Karen Drucker's Let It Shine. Let your big, bright, brilliant beam of radiant light shine. Well, I decide I'm bringing it all. I'm bringing my whole being into this song. Now, when I sing normally, I'm singing like this. When I sang on Friday night, my entire body was wide open. I mean, I was in the song. Not only that, it has a country western kind of a theme to it. So my friend Nancy had got me these cool boots with fringe, and I found this top with fringe, and I got my cowboy hat. And I even got onto YouTube on Thursday, and I learned a little bit of a country line dance. And in the instrumental, I'm like, whoa, doing this whole country line dance. And I had so much fun. And so after the thing was over and most everybody was gone, Mitch tells me, you won. And I'm like, because I seriously did not anticipate winning. And they're like, no, really, you won. And my immediate feeling in the pit of my stomach, I felt it. And I felt shame, and I felt undeserving of it. So here's where we go with this, though. So I'm in the discomfort. Now I'm in the place where I'm not going to just, I want to look at this. What's going on? Why is this coming up? And what it helped me to see was that when what do we have in our world? We have competition, and we have the best team, the best whatever, And so if you win the contest, you're the best. I live my life so different from that, because I'm not better than anybody. And that's why I'm so real up here, because I want you guys to know I'm doing this journey as well. I'm not better than anybody. Now, I have to do some work on thinking others are better than me. That's part of my work here, but I got it. I'm not better than anybody. And it breaks my heart when I hear parents yelling at their children at sports games and, get out there, you need to be the best, you need to be the best. Because for me, it's all about just being your best and bringing your best. And so what I realized was on Friday night, I just brought my best and I brought my all into it, and people enjoyed it. And the moment I got there, every ounce of shame and not feeling deserving of it went away, because I could receive it then. And one of the things I get to receive is I get to receive a microphone for home use from Springfield Music, because they donated it. And so I'm really excited about that. But that's just an example to show these things are going to come up for us. And we can either stuff them, or we can say, I'm going to be uncomfortable in this, and I'm going to step back, and I'm going to take a look at this, because clearly something's going on, and I'm so ready to release it. Aren't you so ready to release some of this crazy stuff? Yes, because that is what... And I love, because Eckhart Tolle says, each time we do this, the light of our consciousness grows stronger. Each time that we do that, the light of our consciousness grows stronger. And then Michael Singer says, what would your life be like if you didn't have that pain? You'd be free. You would be free. You would go out into life, and you don't have this pain going on. You don't have these things that can be pinged, and you're just happy. You can be with people who are so unlike you. You can hear opinions that are so opposite of yours, and you're not going to defense. You're not, feeling aggravated and angry, because you've healed that within you, and you're able just to be present and not take it in and not let it define you. Wow, that's a concept, isn't it? But it's where we can get to. Now, we can do it that way, which I love that, but I also really love this way. And this is where Eckhart Tolle talks about the pain body. And he said it's the unconsciousness that has created the pain body, and it's consciousness that will transmute it into itself. And St. Paul expressed this so beautifully in a universal principle when he said, everything is shown up by being exposed to the light, and whatever is exposed to the light itself becomes light. And we know that, because there is only one presence and one power, and it is God. And it is light, and it is good, and it is love. And so when we're experiencing life and we're having these things that come up, here's what I want to say to you. And please hear me when I say this, but it's not okay for you to act out in negative ways around people. It's not okay. It's not okay for you to spew your anger. It's not okay for you to try to make other people feel bad. It's not okay to do that, because as we talked about last week, that's environmentally polluting everybody else's space. It's not even about them. It's about what's going on inside of you. And we can no longer make excuses for that. We certainly can't make excuses for that if we say that we are here to be peacemakers. If we want to see peace and love be what's the most important thing on the planet, we have to become that vibration and that energy. So when these things come up and they get pinged, and how do we know they get pinged? Right? We feel it. We absolutely feel it. That instead of, wah, we go, take a deep breath and just kind of step back. And we give it to the light. We give it to the light to be transmuted into the light itself. And we give it, and we give it, and we give it, and we give it again. Holy Spirit, of myself I cannot do this. Of myself I can do nothing. It's the Father and I that do this. It's God and I that do this. And I want to clear this energy. Don't you want to clear that energy? Aren't you so ready to be free? Aren't you so ready to be, to not have this stuff going on all the time? Yes? Yes. So you got to do the work. It's important to do the work. And so what he says is, if life does something that causes a disturbance inside of you, instead of pulling away, let it pass through you like the wind. At any moment, and we all know this, we can feel fear, insecurity, jealousy, embarrassment. And if you watch, you will see that your heart is trying to push it away and saying, oh, it's out there. No. I'm going to come back here. He said, when you feel pain, simply view it as energy. Just start seeing those inner experiences as energy simply passing through you. And then do the opposite of what you want to do, which is to contract and close, and open your heart and breathe into it. Let yourself be present in that moment. Let yourself know, hey, ooh, this is happening. This is interesting. I like the word interesting because you can use it for so many things, but this is interesting. And the thing is, he said, your resistance to do so will be huge, but that's what makes it so powerful. Is as you do this, every single time that you relax and release, a piece of the pain leaves forever. Hear that. Every time that you relax and release, a piece of the pain leaves forever. And I know that none of us want to walk around in this pain body and do life like that. We want to do life free. We want to be out there enjoying life and connecting and laughing and being serious when we need to be serious and being, activists in our community. And, we want to be doing it. And you know what else we want? We want a healthy body, right? We want energy and health and life. And if we have all this pain locked up inside of us, where do you think it's going to manifest? In our bodies. And so it's vitally important to every aspect of your life that you do this work. Okay? So I'm going to invite you to get your bulletin out. I loved the last paragraph of this bulletin. And I would invite all of us to share in this last paragraph together. So whenever my mind seems to be fogged over with doubt or fear, I visualize the window of my soul opening. Then I envision a warm glow of peace moving out from the core of my body to reach all of me, from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. Yes, peace begins with me and is now a part of all that I experience. How'd that feel? Good. Okay. So your homework, if you choose to do it, and I really want to encourage you to do it, is again to go out into your week and be awake and aware. Allow yourself to feel what's going on. If you happen to environmentally pollute something, don't beat yourself up. If you can make amends to that, I encourage you to do that. Don't beat yourself up, but just step back and go, okay, I want to do this differently. And give it over, you guys. God is the great healer. Love is the great healer. It's the only healer. And so give it over. Give it over, give it over, give it over. And I say to you, namaste. Have a beautiful week. Namaste.